Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. Yeah.
What's up, Raj?
Herb, how are we doing this evening?
I don't know. I feel like we were given some ominous words before we got onto the air, so I'm thinking,
Oh my gosh.
is it going to be good? Is it going to
I
be
think
bad?
it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be a beautiful Tuesday evening filled with fun, joy, laughter, friendly banter, etc. So I am looking forward to it. I don't think there's going to be any lacrimation at all.
I hope not. I
Yes.
hope not. Let's say hello to a couple people real quick. What's up, J-Bake?
Hey,
How
Bake
you
is
doing?
in the building. Thank you for joining us as always, sir. We appreciate you.
Michael, be nice to our guests. Be nice to our guests. And yes, Kat, he does. As soon as the stream is up, he's in
J-Bake,
there.
yeah, he jumps in, speaks his mind, and that's what he's got to do.
Yep. And the Alpha Pools are in the house. One half at Cat Pool and Lady Alpha, yes. Roll Tide to you as well. And I have to apologize for my transgressions against the Alpha Pools last week. I let them down. I let myself down. I let my family down.
Oh,
it was
my
just
God.
a sad time.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't let Raj down, though, because, who cares? It's Raj.
Yeah, it's just me.
What's up, Carol? How are you doing?
Good
I know
evening,
you're going to
Carol.
enjoy tonight, Carol. Raj and I are going to take the night off, and Randy's going to take over as soon as we bring him on here. So
you can't just say it's Randy. You have to announce.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So, Raj, we have a surprise guest tonight.
Okay.
We're very, very fun.
Wait. Who is it, Herb? Who should I guess?
Well, you have to wait until I bring them on. Okay.
Okay.
Raj, this man has a podcast that is so great. Kirby Smart watches it every morning. And you said, does it show every day? No, but Kirby Smart watches the live one, and then he watches a replay every morning. He's documented as saying that. Yep.
Okay.
Recently rated as the #1 Georgia podcast, rated by all of Twitter, all of YouTube, and by Herb N Rodg.
What about TikTok?
I don't know. You're the TikTok guy, so you have to tell me. I don't even know how to. I don't know how to tick, and I don't know how to talk.
I have absolutely no idea. Regardless, it's #1. It's #1.
It's #1. Yes, Raj. Yeah. And he recently retired, Raj, with a 2-0 record, picking Raj over Herb.
Oh gosh.
How are we doing, Randy?
Hey, fellas.
How you doing? Good.
Yeah, we're hanging in here. It's it's a little. I don't know. It's a little stormy over here, so it's been a little cloudy. But other than that, we're doing all right.
Yeah. We are. I think you must have got some of what we had. It hit right around 4:30 and just was coming down on my way home. So, Randy, that might be the shortest intro I've ever following an intro I've ever are you feeling okay tonight? Is everything good? You got me worried about you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, thankful to be here. In every way. So that's how can you? I don't know, man. It's hard to look around and be like, my girl. Okay, listen, my girls. We have a routine every day where when they get ready for bed, they stop and we have a discussion about whatever it is that they're thankful for that day. So I'm thankful to, put my feet on the floor. I'm thankful to be here with you guys. Yeah. Today's a good day.
I agree. Yeah.
Awesome. I like the sound of that.
So what's up, KD? Roll Tide. Appreciate you
stopping in. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Big Mike. Everybody's favorite Mike. Roll Tide, buddy. Good to see you in here tonight. And I think everybody's greeting each other after that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Dare we say fantastically splendid?
Yes. Carol says it's a takeover. She said it's a something takeover. I can't read that word before takeover. Can't quite pronounce it, but I'm assuming it has something to do with Georgia. So we'll let it ride with
that. We love Carol. So
of course.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where I wanted to start because of course we got to talk about last year, but you brought up one with and we'll go into more into next year, but we've kind of been going back and forth on where you think Georgia's going to be this year, talking about last year. And then all of it was that McMurphy comes out and crowns you guys champions already for next year. And of course, I didn't like it because they had Penn State beating us, but that's, I only glanced at it. This is about us. What was your initial reaction to seeing something like that already?
A couple of different things. I mean, first, sure. I mean, it's one of those things where everything is. It doesn't matter where you look in college football right now. You could go. I generally say there are 6 to 8 teams in any given season that actually can win the thing.
Right.
If you want to be generous because of the playoff, then push it out to 10. But even if you do that, it doesn't matter where you look in college football this year, at least based on what we know today. We don't see any team out there that has a heads up over anybody else in any dramatic way. Right. There's no game-changing quarterback. There's no absolute Heisman front runner that has anything to stand on. There is no dominant team where you look at them and say they're clearly better than everybody else. Like, for example, Texas may have the best roster in college football, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be the best team in college football, right? They have so many questions. They have as many questions as Georgia has. Ohio State has that many questions. Alabama has legitimate questions. There are things that each of these teams can hang their hat on and say, I feel good about. But if you're honest with yourself, there are real questions at all of these programs. So essentially, put them in a spinner and dump out the numbers and see what you got. And his take is as good as anybody else's. Now, the timing of it all, Rivals just joined On3, or a better way to say it is On3 just bought Rivals. And we're going through a merger, and that just became official today. So Shannon Terry, the owner of On3, is out there making waves with his announcements. And just a day or so ago, he announced that McMurphy was going to be joining On3, which is great. Brett's great. He does a great job as far as getting scoop and being a reporter. But Shannon makes the big announcement, talks him up. Why not have it be a splash of an entrance onto On3 with this sort of statement? And it's not like the limb he's walking out on super thin anyway, but literally, like, today's July 1st. So we are 13 days, we're 2 weeks from SEC Media Days. So of course the timing, because of everything I just said, makes perfect sense. So his take, that's how I feel about it. Is that how I feel? Well, you're running the show, Herb. We'll see.
So you do have to kind of start with last year first. Not sure where to start, but I'll start with something that I said. Kirby Smart, to me, I think is still the best coach in the country. And I think I've heard it said on more than one occasion. Last year, despite the end results, given kind of like transition of certain things, Carson Beck kind of up and down this, leading on the defense again, that was kind of one of his best coaching jobs, getting them as far as they did. Do you agree, disagree?
Well, no, he thinks so. He absolutely thinks so. And not that I needed him to tell me so, but that just completely validates my feeling on it, which is that I can't very well come on an Alabama show and sit here and tell you that if things broke a different way, Georgia, does better. That's sour grapes, and it doesn't fly. So that said, the reality is that going into last season, you had Georgia's top 2 wide receiver options at the X position not be on the team, which essentially stuck a dagger in the downfield passing attack. So when people looked at Georgia and said they aren't explosive, well, there's a reason for that. Your X receiver is the guy who is the man, right? That's your Jerry Rice. That's your route runner. That's the guy that you were going to find on third down. That dude was not there. They had Dylan Bell playing that position, who is a wonderful football player, but he's not a pure X. Right. So him winning at the line of scrimmage to get free in that first 5 yards is not something that they were counting on him doing going into the season. So that was a real problem. Then, to make it worse, Georgia went into last year with nine offensive linemen that they felt really, really good about. Now, that's fantastic. There's not a team in the country that would not want 9 dependable offensive linemen. 7 of those 9 were hurt last year. I mean, at that point, you kind of just got to grit and grin. Right. I mean, you got to do what you can do. So am I making excuses or am I telling the truth? And the reality is when you play football and you have disruptions like that you had counted on to make your system go, it changes how you play. And the fact that Georgia tackled worse last season than they have tackled, I don't know, maybe in the last 6, especially around the line of scrimmage. That's how you end up with Georgia finishing with the 23rd best scoring defense in the country last year, as opposed to a top 10 scoring defense. So when we look at all those things in totality, yeah, I think last year was Kirby Smart's best coaching job at the University of Georgia. And people point at it and go, that was not good enough. That was failure. That was whatever. And there's no clearer line that can be drawn between people who live the game, right? Coaches, those types, and fans than a situation like this, right? Yes. So the question moving forward for anybody who watches Georgia play is, was 2024 the aberrational year, or is it the new standard for Georgia football? And if you watch my channel, I try my best to lay out how I feel and why. But at the same time, not every college football fan does that. So when people look at Georgia this year in 2025, they're going to say, well, this is a team that since the 2022 season has underperformed or underachieved, or however you want to phrase it. But I would argue that the reality is that, like I've stated many times, the ball doesn't bounce your way. People get hurt. And in the game of football, that actually matters.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And Kat kind of pointed out what I was getting ready to say. And I think this was Herb was chuckling about. So once your team wins a few national championships and once you become relevant on an annual basis, your fans, your expectations change. Keep in mind, Herb and I, we've been fans since 1994. So we've been there through the bad years and the really bad years, the rough years. We've had some good years. Then obviously, Nick Saban comes along, things change. And then so I say that to say, like, if you became a fan around the late 2008, 2009 time, then your expectations may be different than somebody who was a fan prior to those years. And I think the Georgia fan base has been experiencing that as well. So their expectations are a little different. So again, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a situation where when you look at what Kirby's done, he has had 9 consecutive top 3 recruiting classes, which is unheard of. Right. He has had 8 consecutive seasons finishing inside the top 7 at the end of the season. Yeah. Like the sustained excellence that he has been able to do during his time there has, to your point exactly, just made people view it in a way that, they're not wrong. I'm not saying fans are wrong. I'm not blaming the fans. Yeah, you want to go win, but there's just a huge difference between saying one thing and then actually wanting to understand, and why it happens.
Yeah. And this is perfect. And it kind of goes along with it too, as well. Yep. You win the SEC and make the playoffs, and then that's like an unacceptable year. Like what have we become as fans when you look at that and think, oh, that was just terrible. We've got to do better. Like there still has to be some victories.
Some of the expectations for Alabama last year, from some people's perspective, was we'll go 11-1 or maybe even undefeated and win a national championship, and that was Kalen DeBoer's first year. And did that bother me? No, because those are some people's perspectives, but I just didn't think that was even close to being realistic at any point in somebody's first year taking over a program. You got to give them some time to recruit, build up the program his way, etc. Get coordinators if he wants to. But again, that's just, that's just how some people are some days. And it's something you see on social media, and it's just stuff we deal with in the chat sometimes. And just, it is what it is. So.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where Georgia is that's why I said about McMurphy, right? It's fine if you want to pick them to win it all.
Yeah,
I can make that argument, right? So I think he's fine in making that pick. He's not the only one. There are other people who are out there.
Yep.
You can't. I just talked. It was last week or two. I'm not sure, but I just talked about how you cannot hold the two ideas in your head at the same time. That Georgia is currently a consensus, favorite or among the favorite contender, however you want to phrase it, to win the national title, and then at the same time, throw boulders at the program and say, well, they're stepping back and they're looking at 3 losses, 4 losses or more. You can't do that at the same time, not the extreme versions of that, Right. So, but that's what fans do. Short for fanatical. So.
Yep.
Very much so. Very much so. It kind of wears on you sometimes, I think. I don't know. It's frustrating to watch to me. And you even had I don't know if you want to recap what you said, but you had one just kind of talking about fans and some of the things that they do on one of your recent podcast episodes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was like, you give me that look like, what, am I wrong?
No, right. Well, and I know what I said is in the episode is right. But before I posted it, I said people are really going to love this one or they're going to hate it. Right. And apparently they didn't like it. They didn't hate it. Not many people saw that one. So it's one of those things where you just enjoy the game, man. Enjoy the season, enjoy the ride, because is it going to hurt? Yeah, because you care. But if you try to temper those like out of your skis thoughts a little bit with reality and understanding around the game, then it allows you to sort of separate or disassociate your personal worth and well-being from the team. And then you can actually enjoy the game. Like I have young daughters, 10 and 7, and I would never want to ruin their experience around a Georgia Saturday because of the way I'm acting. Right. Now, I've never done that. That's not the kind of fan I am, but I can't imagine being selfish enough. And see, I'm in the mood tonight that if I hurt your feelings, that's tough. But if you're going to be selfish enough to act that way and like act out and do something crazy when you have your family or friends around you that are trying to be there with you and share in this thing that you love so much to get closer to you, and then you make that experience so bad for them, that's selfish to me, and it's stuff like that I was talking about in that episode. And people don't like to take medicine. Some people are like, whatever, I can enjoy it.
But it was honest. It was honest. So I enjoyed it. Carol just said she's dead. Bama Standard, I think, feels you. Yeah. Which, by the way, Bama Standard, he did jump in and let me know that it's definitely not me who's in charge running this thing. So and also,
wait a minute. We're on the same level. What am I missing there? Oh, Herb thinks he's in charge. Okay, sorry. I'm just now seeing it over here. Sorry.
And what is? I don't know which Daniel. Oh, and what's up, Daniel Berry? Good to see you tonight.
Daniel Berry, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Dennis says somebody's bumped their head. I don't know which one of us. I'm not sure.
I have bumped my head before, but not tonight. So
yeah, sure. And hold on, Carol had one that I wanted to go ahead and approach, and you said this.
What?
Oh, okay. Did you have something?
One quick thing. As far as the Brett McMurphy post, for me, I look at things like that and like him and Josh Payton, the 1-3, etc. And it's summer. To me, that equals one word: is engagement. It's something you can post out there. It's just your
something we'll talk about on Saturday night.
Something we'll talk about. Something that people like us talk about on podcasts. You put it on social media, just get everybody's opinion. It's engagement. We know it's. Is there a lot going on recruiting? Yes, but other than recruiting, there's not too much bouncing the ball right now. And then, of course, we're just kind of ramping up for the first week of August when things really, really kind of get going. So it's engagement. We're going to see more lists like this. Josh Payton might drop another list, and 1-3 and rival, whatever. They'll drop some stuff just for people to talk. It's just it's opinions. It's always cool to look at.
And that's fine. I mean, I've been in the media for 26 years. It's fine. It's just. And I'm guilty of it too. I will do reaction pieces to, whatever somebody says, because I know that people want to engage, and that's cool. So it is what it is. I just, And I hate that phrase, by the way. I said that right there. So that's if y'all had a wooden spoon, I'd tell you to wrap my knuckles right now because I hate when I do that. But in Alabama and Georgia, there are people. I know it's not you guys necessarily, but we consume stuff from all over the place as just fans of college football.
Right.
And there are absolutely Alabama voices out there who are just scattershot on the program, meaning there are people who are like, well, if he loses 3 games again, then there's a serious problem. Right. And then there are also people who won't hear anything except that, they are undefeated heading into like the SEC championship game. So I've heard them both. And that's how I know that the Alabama fan base is, just like the Georgia fan base, because there are people who hold both of those opinions inside the Georgia fan base as well. And it's and you guys, I think y'all think I'm giving you a hard time, and I'm not. When I say things
I
like
feel that way.
But when I see things like Alabama, if they have a top 3 defense, if that's what happens, and they're bringing back all these people, then they absolutely beat Georgia in Athens. That's going to happen because even with Georgia's home field advantage and all the other things that are going on right there, if that's correct, they will defeat my team, in late September. So at that point, if you look at the rest of the schedule, where are the road bumps, right? Where are the hiccups? That's just, if that's true, then they should go on to be SEC favorites. They should be in the game, and then they should, because defense travels, have every opportunity once the playoff begins to win the whole thing. And so there are Alabama fans who want to tamper that, right, and not overhype this coach in his second year and so on. And I totally get it. But that's the reality of the game, though.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and tell you today that I think Georgia has the ability, even with Alabama having a new quarterback, I can't sit here and say I think Georgia's going to shut down that offense when they come to Athens because they have a new quarterback, because whatever. And then you throw in the home field advantage and so on. Even today, I can't say that. Right. So if you're an Alabama fan who says we are going to dominate the defensive side of the football, if that's true, then Alabama beats Georgia, and Alabama should be in Atlanta to play in the title game.
Yeah, I don't know. I still need to see a lot on the field, so I guess that's why I don't jump ahead.
Well, that's. Go ahead, Herb. I'm
said he's with you too as well, but I guess Dennis was Nobody likes to hear the truth when you're not kind of just saying, hey, we're going to go undefeated. Like, there's a lot of people who don't want to hear that kind of stuff. I'm like, I think we're just realistic fans. So everybody wants to go undefeated. Yeah, but
the pathway,
going to Athens is still a tough place to play. And Kirby Smart is still the best coach to me in the country. And remember what we said last year when you were like, hey, I think the offense is going to be ahead of the defense. And I was like, I don't know, man, because Kirby Smart, to me, first, defenses are always ahead of offenses to me, the way just the summer goes and practices. And then B, it's Kirby. I feel like he can get a sixth grader out there as his quarterback, and he's just going to figure out a way to maximize that guy and lean on the defense.
If you look,
I've got it starred for his question.
If you look at Georgia's season a year ago, if you think about the Clemson game, and you think about the Texas game in Austin, the reason that Georgia defense looked the way it did in those 2 games is because their tackle rate in those 2 games was exponentially better than it was in every game the rest of the year. And it changed the way everything looked, right? Because even though they might not have had all those first rounders that they had on the 21 and 22 teams playing last year, they had enough dudes that if they just kept everything in front of them, tackled well, then they could turn those superstars loose and then they could have an impact. And that's exactly what you saw against Clemson and Texas. When those 2 teams, when they didn't do that, which was the majority of the year, Mississippi State, UMass, Georgia Tech, all those games that people point to and try to knock, last year, the Twitter people, they're right that Georgia gave those things up, and it was because they didn't tackle well.
Right.
Just that simple. So, a play that should have been a 4-yard gain or something like that turns into a 45-yard play and you lose, or even if the teams aren't good enough to beat you, it looks ugly, and that's what happened to Georgia last year defensively. So as far as everything you just said about Kirby and the defense and all those things, they're great. I don't disagree. That's why I can make an argument that Georgia could very well go win the national title this year.
Yeah.
But I can also make a different argument, so.
We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get into the schedule.
And I saw you put a comment on the screen there from the Standard talking about it being a rational fan and not sugarcoating it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I sit in this chair right now, I'm not wearing my journalist hat. I'm wearing my Georgia Bulldog fans hat and just sharing the way I view the game as if I were a journalist, right? As if I'm not being biased. I look at it the same way, but I am biased when I sit here. I will readily admit that.
Right.
But I think I offer a heavy dose of like honesty and reality, and then try to explain why the position is what it is. And hopefully it comes across that way. So if the Bama Standard or whoever, and I think I made a post about this recently, I am willing to go sit in and chat with anybody. That's fine. As long as we can, not be, ex rock throwers. You know what I mean? As long as we can talk about the game, it's all good.
I don't see the point of shows like that either. And I think that's our relationship's always been good. That's why we always love having you around. Honestly, we weren't sure if we were going to do a Georgia, preview episode, because we were already kind of looking forward to doing our Georgia Alabama, previews when it comes down to that, because we had a lot of fun with those crossover episodes last year. And I think the stakes are always going to be high in that game, so I'm kind of looking forward to that, and hopefully traveling for that game as well.
Well, it's one of those games. I talked about it this week, maybe. It's one of those games where everybody's going to be looking at that game that week. There's no two ways around it. If the teams are playing well, Georgia goes to Tennessee and doesn't lose, and then they come home, they're going to be 3-0. I don't know your record that well, but I'm assuming you'd probably be 3-0 at that point.
Yeah, Florida State and Wisconsin are mixed in there with a couple.
Oh, don't forget about Louisiana Monroe.
So Florida State and Wisconsin are mixed in there.
So I'm just saying.
If we lose to Louisiana Monroe, they're firing DeBoer after the game.
If he makes
it to the final whistle, that's it.
That's it.
DeBoer will not make it through year 2.
I have not looked at Wisconsin. I mean, but you guys are going to beat Florida State. So that should be a fun trip for you. Then you have, is it Louisiana Monroe next? I don't know. So then the Warhawks, I think. And then, or they used to be maybe. And then you get Wisconsin at home, which, you should be able to win, I would imagine, just because it's a tough place to play and yada, yada, good defense, so on and so forth. I mean, I don't know what Wisconsin wants to be right now. Just based on what I saw them do last year. I'm just not sure who they want to be.
Like they're in a transition, but they're not like all the way on board with the transition as far as what they want to do. So.
Yeah. And so the national media is going to be all over that game. There's no reason we shouldn't do as much as we can or want to do around that, because, I mean, as Alabama fans, if you look at your schedule, you've probably got 3 of those games, maybe 4. I mean, you got what? Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee. I'm sorry, Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU. So there you go. So that's 4 that garner national attention pretty easy, and you should do all the things, all the things, whatever you can do. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, that's why, like I said, we look forward to it. We enjoyed it last year greatly. That was just a lot of fun getting everybody together, talking about the game. So
it
was good.
And the game itself lived up to all the expectations. So it had all the drama and everything.
I don't know if that was any expectations, because that game was like any. If you had told me how that game would have played, I would have told you were crazy. And I couldn't have predicted it at all. 0%.
a moon ball, like he just heaves the ball down the sideline, and the defender, doesn't play it at all. And the real sin of that play, from a Georgia fan's perspective, is not that kid made that catch or that he threw the ball that far or whatever. No, that's not even the problem. The problem is that they just panicked and didn't make the tackle after he caught the ball. Yeah. That's the real sin there. I mean, you have Julian Humphreys, who is no longer a Georgia Bulldog. He lost his starting position and took off to A&M. And you got KJ Bolden, who's the young kid back there. Just make the tackle, like that's what you got to do. And they didn't do it. And so Alabama wins. There you go.
Let's say hello to a couple of people and to get to you. Did have a question in there in a comment. So what's up, Bo?
Shout out to Bo. Thank you for joining us, sir.
And this was like trying to read part of this. The fan base has changed. Some people like the players aren't responsible for their play on the field or for their play on the field. Maybe is what he's saying there. So, and Dennis was actually a Bulldogs fan. So, what's up, man? Mm-hmm. Glad to see a mixture of fans in here too.
Yeah.
So. I think this was talking
Everybody
about Kirby.
In here getting along. That's what I like to see.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Did Mike just throw in a Green Day?
I saw that, and I didn't get the Green Day reference. I'm not a big Green Day fan myself, but Mike, I think we follow along. We get it.
Yeah.
And that's why when September ends is in all caps. So.
What's up, Chris?
Hey, we are big Green Day fans over here.
Okay, so you guys got it. Okay.
You can always say, and I talk to my girls about this all the time. I ask them because we want them to be well-rounded, well-versed in all the arts, especially music, and we want them to have good taste. So when we're talking about Green Day, I always ask them, who sounds like Green Day? And there's only one acceptable answer, and that is Green Day sounds like Green Day.
Green Day. There you go.
Because you are not as generationally and world famous as Green Day is if you sound like everybody else.
Right.
So you can play the same genre, whatever, it's not the same. I can give you half of a measure, and I can tell you if it's a Green Day song, right?
Gotcha.
I mean, that's how it goes.
I like it.
I'm glad you clarified for us because I was lost myself. So.
What's up,
Ariel? Thank you for joining us.
And Carol talking about Kirby. Yep.
I am seeing some names come through here that I have not seen usually on your shows. Like when I come watch you guys, some of these names are new. So welcome. Hey y'all. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
So because we've been streaming on the Bama Standard, you do get some of that too as well. So that's where some of those extra ones. So, but no, absolutely. Good. Thank you. We appreciate you. Yeah, we're going to try and keep this to some more Georgia talk. But Chris, Raj and I, like I said, we've seen bad. We need to see it on the field before I get super excited. Like, am I excited about the defense? Yes, but there's still question marks everywhere.
That's why I try not to eat too much into all the rankings that we're getting, all these preseason rankings as far as the offensive line, defensive line. I'm like, man, I got to see it in game one. Let me see what we look like and how we can build up to this Georgia game first.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to get back into that one. So. Oklahoma, just because they're at home. I'm the only game at home that I'm like fearful of is like LSU. I feel like the rest of our home games we should handle. I'm more worried about the road games.
Yeah.
So. You had to. So let's get Bama Standards question for you first. Big fan of Branson Robbins. How'd you feel about leaving, and what impact will it have?
Okay, so hang on one second. Now, if you don't mind. Bama Standard. I don't know who's running the account. So
that should be Justin.
I'm just going to say Justin. Okay. Thank you, Justin. So first off, the fact that you know that means that somehow you are low-key OG. Like there's why would you know that? So I guess I'm honored that you checked out my stuff or watched it or whatever, however you know that. So I appreciate that. So thanks for that. First off, gold star to you. As far as how I feel about him leaving, this one is super simple. And I've come to a point where I actually feel good about, like, I feel happy to be able to say what I'm about to say.
Okay.
I am a big fan of Branson Robinson. Love that kid. It got to the point where because he had that injury last season, and it was a major injury, not just a soft tissue injury, it had just gotten to the point with the way recruiting is these days, and everybody is shooting for mid-year enrollees. And at a place like Georgia, just like at Alabama, you're going to try to go get the top at the position, wherever it is. You're going to go try to get them. And so at a place like at a running back position, right, they're constantly bringing in new dudes. And it had just gotten to the point where it was best. I think it was best for Branson to transfer, because that's what the transfer portal is supposed to be.
Right.
If you've got a guy that has suffered injuries and understands that his time to play and potentially forever, like he may not play beyond college after the kind of injuries he's had, his time to play is quickly going away. And now he's behind, these young guys that keep rolling into the program each year and are not injured. I just think it was time for a fresh start, a clean slate for everybody involved. There is zero ill will among anybody I know that's involved with the Georgia program toward Branson or the other way. And I will be rooting for him every single time I can. He's playing at Georgia State. He knows Dale McGee. He knows what he's getting into over there. So he doesn't have to leave the state, doesn't have to uproot his life. He can go get a fresh start, actually get to play. And Georgia doesn't have to try to shoehorn him back in, because he's earned it. He has earned that at Georgia. Right. But now they just don't have to. They can worry about getting the room right, for the year without trying to get him back in there. But I love the kid. Powerful, great guy. Just I just wish it had worked differently. But maybe it will work differently at Georgia State for him. And again, that's why the transfer portal, the way it is, that's how it should work. Because, if you're running out of time and you want to go play, then, or you just made a bad choice, it's not a good fit, that's okay. You're right, transfer, that's fine. Right. And I really, really, really hope that that goes well for him.
Fair enough.
I'd love to have him again. I wish prime Branson Robinson at Georgia. Right. Man, that would have been amazing to see, but it just never happened.
Yeah. And you see like the comments coming in, people like Carol and Justin both talking really, really good about him. So did you have any comment on this one? Rod Robinson might be next.
Go ahead, man. Let me get over here. To jump. Yeah. Well, we will see. But he is, for the exact same reason, he is a prime candidate. If he goes out this year, doesn't stay healthy, then I would not in any way be shocked if he were to decide I'm going to go somewhere else and play. The kid is a really good football player. He's faster than you think he is. He absolutely can move a pile. They trust him. He's a better pass receiver than you think. But if he can't stay healthy, the same story plays out for him. And I really hope he does. He's had one of those, he's had a couple of different soft tissue injuries and like a toe thing. And I'm old enough to remember when Deion Sanders was in the pros. That was the first time I really learned about a turf toe. And I remember how long he missed, how much of his, like top level years he missed because he had a banged up toe, a big toe, And so there was more than that with Rod, but yeah, exactly the same story. So I won't be shocked at all. I want to see him play because I want to see him, I want to see him help Georgia. But if it just doesn't go that way, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Okay. And thank y'all for all the comments and stuff. A couple of questions we're sliding to the end, so we will keep those around, but keep them coming.
And for the record, and you guys obviously, y'all make it go. But I'm fine. So if we go long, we need to go long. It's fine. So so there's no pinch over here.
Okay. Well, then I do want to put one kind of cap on, I guess, last year and start the transition. But Carol had a comment earlier that I thought, I don't know how much you want to go into it because the person that from the outside view, it definitely seemed like a Carson Beck thing, at least offensive wise, and then given kind of how he left and where he ended up going. From the outside view, Carson Beck seems to have a lot to do with this. But for you as a fan, as more of an insider, What do you think? Am I totally off base? Do you agree with Carol that the chemistry overall seemed a little bit off, or where are your thoughts on it?
And to add on to Herb's question, if the chemistry was off, when did you see? Was it something that happened midway through the season, or was there a certain game that kind of triggered it, or when did you kind of see that? Again, if this was your point of view, when did you kind of see it going in that direction?
This idea, this concept is great because it's just part of the big football burrito. Mm-hmm. And what I mean is you cannot separate everything. So going into last year, Georgia's first option was to throw the ball around with a quarterback that was the best returning quarterback in the country, statistically speaking. They were going to let him win the game. That, of course, was the
part of the reason why you thought the offense was going to be ahead of the defense to start the year.
That was the plan. But it's like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face. And for Georgia, that punch in the face came in the way of injuries and the suspensions and the guys getting in trouble off the field, right? And it just put a dagger in all that talk. So yes is the answer to this question. I agree with it in two ways. One, you cannot have chemistry when 7 of your starting 9 or your first 9 offensive linemen are missing significant time and you don't have your first 2 options at the X position at wide receiver. Right. You can't do it. So it doesn't matter how good Carson Beck may have been. We don't know. Just give him credit. Say he would have been every bit as good as he was in 23. Well, in 23, you can argue, haters will, that he's only good because of Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. Here's the reality of that situation. In 23, the reason that Georgia had everything riding on that SEC championship game was because those 2 players played a total of 6 or 7 quarters together all year. But you had one or the other, and Carson could still do things, and you still had like Ra Thomas as a 3rd option, right? A 4th option. So they still had pieces. Last year, those dudes are gone, and now the dudes that were supposed to replace them, they're gone, and it doesn't matter how good Carson could have been. It shifted to a point where now everything was on his shoulders because the offensive line couldn't get push in the run game thanks to the injuries. There were a few small running back injuries in the first half of the season, the first 5 weeks of the season, where you had a different guy rolling in there. Again, no consistency in chemistry. So now you don't have the weapons. You have inconsistency based on the injuries that are on the field. And you're still going to ask this guy to go out and try to win the game for you because that was the whole game plan. It doesn't matter how good he was. Last year, and you could really see it by the time we got to Florida, like you could see he was trying to press and make a thing happen. Mm-hmm. And it became a big issue. That's the on the field stuff. The off the field stuff and the way there was a difference in the locker room and all that about the way he acted or handled his business. There's truth to that. Now, the depth of it, I don't know. I do know, though, that the riff inside the locker room was very, very real. And the evidence that any of us could see was that when Gunnar got to play, the thing was, man, we really, really hope you do well. You know, yeah, they want to win the game, but on a personal level, they wanted him to do well. Mm-hmm. So that's anecdotal, right? We couldn't hang our hat on it, but it's real. And those two things together absolutely back up Carol's statement that the chemistry was off. But I don't think it was just because of Carson Beck. If those dudes are out there playing for him and the offensive line's more healthy, Trevor Etienne, who missed time due to suspension, right? Again, if all these pieces were there, that thing could have been like a whole lot of fun to watch. And instead of averaging over 40 points a game, which Georgia fans have gotten used to, they were somewhere in the neighborhood. I think it was like 35 points a game. And you're like, well, that's not a huge difference, but it actually is when you play it out over the course of a season. Yeah. And so I think I think she's spot on right there. But it's not just one thing. It was multiple things. Yeah. Not the coaching, right? Because that's why I never come back to the beginning, right? Where it wasn't his best job. And keep in mind, it sounds like I'm poor mouthing them like crazy, and yet they still went out and won the conference.
Yeah.
So
no, that's what I said. That's why I thought it was. And like I said, I've got tremendous respect for Kirby. So,
yeah.
Most of the year for Kirby, no telling what people are telling him that he needed to be or whatnot.
Oh, and then what happened in New Orleans? I mean, with his father falling and then passing while he's there, and then the national stuff that happened while they were there, the disruption of the game. This is not an excuse about the way Georgia played. Georgia got beat by Notre Dame because they couldn't run the ball worth a rip because they're left, again, injuries and stuff. They didn't play well. That's why they lost. But just everything that happened last year, in retrospect, just feels like such a slog from a Georgia, like from my perspective, it just feels like everything was hard. And you saw glimpses, right? Again, Clemson, Texas, you saw glimpses, but not at all the way it would have looked if everything bounced their way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's football.
And there you got Enrique. Go Dogs.
Thank you for joining all of us, Enrique. We appreciate it.
We'll start this other question. Carol actually kind of leads into one of our other subjects that we didn't get into. I was kind of impressed by this, by the way. I thought they caught everything in the second half of that game that Gunner threw up. Passes that I've quite frankly, didn't see them catching all year. One thing that you have consistently said is that you're not worried about Gunner for next year, though. So go ahead and speak on him for a couple.
All right. So this is weird, too, because you watch all these young guys when they're in high school, some more than others, meaning like some people care more about watching them in high school than others do. Right. But even if you're just casually paying attention to watching them play, you get a general feel for the kind of player that a person is. It's kind of like playing guitar, right? Like I can play my Stratocaster. I can play Eric Clapton's songs note by note on my Stratocaster. But when you hear Eric play, we're not going to sound the same because the way you play, you're born with it. There's nothing you can change. I can read the music and play it. It's not the same as when Eric does it. Okay. So it's the same in football. It's the same as a quarterback or any other position. You play the way you play and nobody plays like you. Mm-hmm. And so in that regard, I never had any question about Gunner as a leader, as the kind of guy that I would want on my team. And I can remember watching him and going, whoa, I don't know if he can do that at the next level, like as far as run away from people or run over people, that kind of stuff. But I can get a feel for who he is. And he really does have a good anticipation, good mechanics, all that kind of stuff. But his arm might not be as strong as, say, Carson Beck's, right? Mm-hmm. That's why Carson Beck was projected as potentially a number 1 draft pick. Yep. So there's give and take. If you're playing EA Sports, sliders, right? You can more arm power, leadership ability. You know what I mean? So in terms of Gunner, all those things, when he originally committed to South Carolina, I was bummed out about that because here you have the national player of the year in your state and he chooses to go play somewhere else. The world turns, coaches move, he ends up at Georgia. And I'm not telling you he's going to be a 1st or 2nd round draft pick. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that he could end up being a really, really good college quarterback. And we all know what that means. It means that you lean more on the players around you. You know, there's all that rah-rah that gets involved, and it matters. It's different. So I really do think that he can do everything on the field that he needs to do. Now, then we got to see him play against Texas and then against Notre Dame. And when I watched him actually throw the football, he throws a really nice deep ball. Right. He, read the field pretty well. He had 0 run game help in that game, but he was able to move inside the pocket and do some things. Can he improve? Yeah, every day. And that's the goal. But everything that I've seen, everything that I thought was verified, and everything that I saw made me feel better. So I don't have any issues with who Gunner is. The problem I have with Georgia and Gunner Stockton right now is that they did not go get a portal player at quarterback, not because they wanted to unseat him as the starter, but because Kirby there's two rules about quarterbacks as far as Kirby Smart is concerned. One, he wants to have 4 scholarship quarterbacks at all times. And two, he likes experience.
Right.
So as it is right now, they don't have that. They were going to get a guy. They were chasing a guy. He wound up going to Indiana. So now Georgia didn't take anybody out of the portal at the position. So going into 2025, as much as I love Ryan Puglisi, and as much as as highly as I think of Gunnar Stockton, the way he plays is dangerous. He is one play away from having a player that has never taken a snap in a college game run the offense for Georgia this year. That's terrifying. And that's part of the reason that I can tell you, I can also make an argument for Georgia going 8-4, or 7-5. So that's how we get there, because that is the reality for Georgia going into it. But as Gunnar specifically, I'm not concerned about Gunnar.
Yeah.
So
you've been pretty consistent in that. Go ahead, Roger.
Now, based on everything you just said, I have to ask this just out of curiosity.
Sure.
Do you think Gunnar's a top 5 quarterback in the SEC this year?
Well, I mean, if we're looking at just what we know about the preseason, gosh, we're talking about Sellers, Nussmeier, I'm not, who else? Arch, Lagway. I couldn't tell you the kid who's transferred twice from A&M is the quarterback at Kentucky.
Oh, Calzada? Is it Calzada?
Yeah. So he's at Kentucky.
Hasn't it been more than twice too? But yeah.
Well, no, he was at Auburn, A&M,
and like Incarnate Word. I think I read that one was a random one in there too. Yeah.
I mean, what I'm going to say, just because I can't remember all of the starting quarterbacks right now.
Right. You name the top names though for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the kid that's at Auburn now that was at Oklahoma,
Jackson Arnold.
Right. There you go. Him.
We had some interesting discussions about where he fits in from Oklahoma fans and from, I think Auburn fans want to hype him a little too much, and Oklahoma fans are like, they might want to pump the brakes a little bit on that excitement level.
Even with all that said, I'll give you this, Raj. I would not put him in the top 5. Just because if I'm going to bang on Arch for not having any quality, time on the field, I can't very well turn around and say, well, it doesn't apply to Gunnar. So I would probably put him at 10 or higher, inside the top 10 somewhere, if I really stopped and looked at it. I mean, because you got Pavia, Vandy.
I forgot about Pavia. Jeez.
So I might put him at 10 or somewhere in there, but that is in no way an indictment on what I think he can be.
Right. Potential's different. That's different.
Yeah. But sitting here today, I would probably put him somewhere around 10, maybe. Probably as low as I'd go would be 12. Okay. But again, we have to see.
Yeah.
Speaking of Arch, Paul Feinbaum came out today and said that apparently Arch Manning was the greatest college football quarterback we've seen.
I just can't believe people listen to Feinbaum sometimes.
Since Tebow, apparently. So I thought that was interesting. But again, it's more just for engagement. That's Paul Feinbaum being Paul Feinbaum. So.
Oh, for sure. And the minute I heard him say that, I'm like, I can create a fun little short form video about this.
Exactly.
I forgot about Simmons too as well.
Absolutely.
What's his name?
Simmons.
Austin Simmons.
Austin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me say Simmons one more time and you ignore me, Raj, and I'm coming across.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
I mean, I don't do gambling. I've never, you watch these podcasts and stuff. Well, I mean, you watch everybody out there.
No, I'm being for real. From personal experience, smart man.
Yeah.
Everybody out there who it seems like they've got somebody sponsoring them or trying to get you to use their code to play betting games and stuff.
Yep.
Hey, listen, you do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to do that. And with that said, I was listening to somebody that I appreciate, a friend of mine that I trust here in the Georgia media. And he made a post yesterday or today where he was just running down the early lines because he has a sponsor like that, right? And so he was like, well, it looks like Georgia is a 4.5 point favorite over Alabama. And then he went down the list and he was talking about Ole Miss. And that number, I believe that number was like 8 or 9, something like that. Georgia was a favorite at home. And to the Austin Simmons comment directly, as great as he is and as unprepared as Georgia was to handle him for the series that he came in there, that says a lot. If that number is anything close to a consensus as far as Vegas is concerned, that tells you a lot about the fact that they just don't think Ole Miss is anything close to what they were, because that's a big number. I don't care if you are Georgia at home. That's a big number for a conference opponent that beat you last year. You know, so I mean, Simmons might be great, and he's certainly dangerous. I just don't know that he's going to have the horses around him when he gets to Athens.
You have to kind of, and we talked about it in our Ole Miss episode, you kind of have to think that Lane had his best shot last year and kind of let it fumble away with some inexplicable losses. And you know how it is when you're not one of the upper echelon. You don't get that many shots at it. You know, like Penn State is on their run right now, and they're trying to capitalize, which I still don't expect them to, but at least they're going for it. You know what I mean? So Ole Miss, you may have missed your best shot.
Like you mentioned,
no pun intended.
You mentioned McMurphy earlier.
Pun absolutely intended.
and his having Penn State beat Alabama in his projection. There was one earlier this year. I have no idea who it was, but it was the same thing. And they had Georgia playing Ole Miss in the second game, and they had Penn State beating a Kirby Smart Georgia team. And I literally laughed out loud. I'm like, there is no way that happens. And I don't even care. Who's playing for them or who's playing for, like, that will not happen. Yeah. So, do you know how I know that you thought it was maybe their one chance? Is the only loss you had Georgia in the regular season last year, you picked Ole Miss to beat them. So you saw something in them. So for you to be saying, not again, like, it just tells you. And then, like you said, with the Vegas number, I think Ole Miss had a shot and just kind of squandered it, man. So I want to show you some love from some people I saw. I'm used to seeing on your show. So 225 Girls stopped by, and Jeremy as well. I don't know if you saw those. No, I'm with you guys. I'm not. Okay. I'm not seeing a lot of those. So, guys, if you're here, I appreciate you being here for real. I love that you guys travel and come and offer a little support over here.
We like to have fans from both sides, so it makes it a lot more fun. Oklahoma showed up pretty well for theirs as too. So we love our folks, but we love to see y'all's too as well.
Oh yeah.
MLT had a Gunner doesn't need to be a top 5. Yep. Jeremy said he'd put him at 6. Yeah. And so there was a question in here we're not going to get fully into. But because it's a Georgia episode, but this was something that was asked by one of your guys earlier. And it's, look, man, we just want somebody who's going to distribute the ball, play safe football. They always give the game manager role. I'm like, we're fine with the game manager.
I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't care what you call them. Just get rid of the football. You've got all the weapons around you in order to have a successful season. So just do that. I'm not expecting Ty to throw for 400 yards a game or anything like that, but just get rid of the football.
And the consensus among us is it's Ty Simpson. Yeah. We're not talking about anybody else.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. There you go. And so
Robert's also over here too. Sorry. I'm just trying to make sure you get your love in before you
that's awesome.
Yeah. So and Robert's actually ready to move ahead. A little Gunner, but I'm ready to see Jared Curtis.
Well, listen, there's a lot of debate about whether or not Curtis that's going to be. Do y'all understand what that? Y'all don't, as Alabama fans.
No,
y'all don't understand what that statement means. But think about what's happening right there. You currently have, I mentioned him a second ago, Ryan Puglisi on campus. Okay, so you have Ryan Puglisi on campus right now. You have, oh my gosh, I just had a brain bubble. I can't think of his name. There was another 4-star quarterback that everybody in the country wanted who got hurt last year as a senior, who is recovering from an ACL injury, who is on campus right now, a hot shot cat, right? So everybody in the country wanted him. So you've got 2 4-stars right there. And then you've got Jared Curtis coming in as a 5-star. That, and not to mention, I believe it's Hezekiah is how you say his first name. There's a young kid that played at Clark Central right there in Athens who's on campus and practicing with Georgia right now. Thank you, Robert. Ryan Montgomery. So with all those guys there, that is one whale of a quarterback competition. So you want to see the Georgia people lose their ever-loving minds. Let Gunnar Stockton go out and have a good year this year, and then choose to not come back for whatever reason, right? Yeah. Whatever it is. And now we throw the door open. And Kirby Smart is sticking with Mike Bobo as the offensive coordinator to choose who's going to handle what appears to be just a crazy good roster moving into the future here, just based on, recruiting and stuff. Who is Kirby going to handle or have handled that offense moving forward? Who is he going to let Bobo pick? You've got a 5-star there, and then these other 2 dudes that have time on him, experience in the system, and also extremely talented. That the house will be on fire if we get into a spring or an off season and there's a legit shot, that they're giving them equal time and reps and practice and all that stuff. Man, oh man, drama. And that's a situation where, again, the portal could use, it could be beneficial. Like they just I'm not going to play here. I got it. I'm going to go play somewhere else. That's fine.
Yeah. Especially as quarterbacks. I feel like that's the one position that, there's limited spots, and you can't sit forever. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
I think that's where we could end up. But yeah, Curtis he's fun to watch.
He's a big boy too, man.
Sure is. But again, I really like Puglisi. He's more of your prototypical. He's more like Carson Beck, except he runs a little bit better. And Carson wasn't a statue, but Puglisi's like that, but a little bit better. With a big old arm, and he can read it, and so I like Puglisi, but I'd hate to see him get the Fromm treatment, where your starter gets hurt in the first game, and now your freshman has to come in and lead the team. Jake Fromm led him to a national title appearance. Maybe Puglisi can do that, but that's how your beard.
That's a lot to
gray.
go. Yeah, that's a lot to throw on you.
Yeah, that's how your beard gets gray.
Yeah.
What's up, Ephraim? Good to see you. He asked who you were, Randy. Randy runs our favorite Georgia Bulldogs podcast. Comes on tomorrow night, 6 Central, 7 Eastern. I guess technically 5:55 Central.
I do that, and I've never had anybody fuss at me for doing that.
Yeah.
But the way I like to run the show is I like to give the notice, hey, in case they don't see it leading up to it. I like to have the notice so people can kind of find it, so there's like a 5-minute window there. So people can come find it and be like, oh, okay, he'll be up in just a second.
That makes sense.
So that's why I do that. But yeah, 7:00 on Wednesdays. That's the original, how about that Dogs cast?
There you go.
What's up, we got to get one of those, Herb.
Yes, we do.
We got to get a little sound machine in here.
All right, Randy, time to I'm sorry. You did have one final question, I guess, on last year.
Okay.
Somebody had never waste a failure. How did the loss to Ole Miss make Georgia better in the long run?
Well, how are we defining the long run? Are we defining it last year or moving into this year? Because if I know Kirby Smart, he is going to do both. Right? I mean, it doesn't matter. That's the thing. Y'all, there's so much I wish I could head down a rabbit trail here and tell you right now. But there's the thing about the way Kirby runs this thing is just like, has pointed out there, he learned that lesson. You learn more in a loss than you ever will in a win. So the fact that they went down there and lost, that's all that anybody cares about. And that's all Kirby cares about when he's talking to his team. He doesn't care that Randy got it right and said, you will have played a crazy month. Injuries will be a problem. It's always tough to go down there and play. He doesn't care that I got any of that right. All he cares is that they didn't play to the standard that he put, that Georgia's supposed to be. And so I'm certain he let them hear about it when we got down there. But then after the game, the thing he said was, we took our lump, we're going to lick our wounds, and then we're going to come back out here and finish this thing strong. And they had to. Now, that was the only way they had a chance to get to Atlanta. And for Kirby Smart, the SEC championship game still matters. But you see that in what happened against, say, Georgia Tech, right? Because they didn't play well, at least for half of the game. And they were resilient enough to hang in there and believe in each other and make the plays that they had to make to get that game won in the end. That game was a result of the disappointment, the breakdowns, all those things that happened at Ole Miss. I think you can draw a direct line, and then you can even carry it forward and say that is why Georgia beat Texas last year. They are more physical, they are tougher, they are more mentally tough than the team that Texas put on the field last year. And until they show me something different, I'm going to ride that bus, and I'm going to tell you that the Georgia program is tougher, more mentally tough, and more physical than the Texas program. So when Texas comes to Athens this year, I'm not giving anything away just yet, but I'm just saying I might tell you that Alabama's going to be a tough game for Georgia. I might lean the other way when I think about Texas right now.
I think you're also kind of tired of hearing of the Texas talk, and I
was about to say, I hope the Texas fans are listening because they have been chirping this offseason too, man. He said they think they're going to go undefeated and win everything. So
hey, Texas. I grew up with daytime game show television. Come on down. Come on down. Come see us over in Athens. You've never played in Athens, so come on. Let's see what it's about. And moving ahead, just to finish that point, he absolutely is using that as a building block because yes, they lost, they lost 2 games in the regular season, and then they lost the 3rd game in the Sugar Bowl. And every one of those things are teaching tapes, and they are absolutely, because
thank you, Kat.
The bigger thing about, and it's everywhere, but the thing that I have harped on a lot is the fact that, there's like 40-50% of Georgia's roster that are in their first year at the university, be it a transfer or a young player. And Georgia's doing crazy things on the recruiting, trail right now. And somebody was talking to Kirby Smart and they're like, man, looking ahead, we're not going to have a lot of turnover in a year or 2, maybe 3, because we are so young right now. And so when you have a roster the way Georgia has a roster right now, you better believe that Kirby Smart's going to use every coaching trick he knows to show those dudes that they got to come in there and work for it and do all that. And nothing better than those losses to get that done. So absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're just going to see those lessons. Everything I just went on a soapbox about what it takes right when it's hard and it's wet and it's nasty and you're injured on the road at Ole Miss. What are you going to do? And he's going to ask them that question every day.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's transition into
I'm getting a little fired up over here.
No, you're good. I like this Randy, though. I like this Randy. So that's good. Let's go ahead and start getting into next year real quick. And kind of taking the official look at it. And I don't know, do you like playing Tennessee, having your SEC game that early? Although it is Tennessee, I remember being on a podcast years ago where somebody, we're not going to name names, but they picked Tennessee to beat Georgia.
Who would do that?
Who would do that? I've never let them forget it, but I just don't know that I see it happening in my lifetime. But,
that whoever made that selection obviously made a mistake, and I'm pretty sure that person is apologetic about it, and that person will never do that again. And that person probably felt extremely foolish after they made that decision.
Oh man. So
Carol let the cat out the bag.
Carol.
Are you asking about Tennessee specifically or just the SEC?
Just having an SEC game. Well, I guess it ended up being, do you like having your SEC game in number 3? But if you're going to have one, do you really mind going to Tennessee? A team that I think you always match up well with.
I'm old enough to remember that game, or maybe the second week in the season, used to be South Carolina. And that meant that every other year we would have to go play in the hellscape that is Columbia in September. And that always stressed me out just because, they can get up for a game over there. And some years they were better than others. And it was a challenging game. So the idea of having a tough game in September, I'm sort of used to, but I'm also old enough to think that Auburn should never be playing Georgia unless it's November, and Tennessee should never be playing Georgia unless it's at least the middle of October. Right. So Tennessee being there, I mean, the league does what it does, but I would rather you throw, I don't know, Mississippi State or, Kentucky or somebody there as opposed to having that game. On the flip side of that, though, knowing that it's Tennessee, Tennessee is is the unspoken unspoken team that I have the greatest amount of disdain for.
Right.
Because they beat up on us when I was in college, and there was a run there in the 90s under Fulmer where it didn't matter. Georgia just couldn't beat Tennessee, and that was because Tennessee was recruiting the heck out of the city of Atlanta and its exurbs, and they, Jamal Lewis from Atlanta, you know what I mean? We could go on and on. So they hurt me for a lot of reasons. So the fact that Georgia currently is on an 8 or 9 game winning streak against Tennessee is glorious. Now, here's the thing, and it doesn't matter. So let's get that out of the way. But at the same time, you can't help but think that it does, that the streaks that Georgia has against Tennessee and against Georgia Tech, stuff like that just doesn't go on forever. And at some point, maybe they won't, but as a fan, you have to be like, is this the year they might get them, trip up or whatever. But I enjoy good games. I enjoy logo games. That's a good logo game for me because I have a low-key strong disdain for Tennessee. So it's fine if it's there. Now, the thing that makes it better is that there's an off week after that game. So they don't have to travel, get home late, and then come around and play Alabama the next week. So that's nice. I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Plus, we get 2 weeks of build up for our game. So, which, by the way, Brian, the Oklahoma fan, already has you guys at 12-0. He also has you losing the SEC championship game to Oklahoma. So. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that comment, but he's got you at 12-0. And Jeremy had a specific one for you.
Okay.
Worried about a night game at Auburn might be a trap game.
Well, I've talked about that one a lot, it seems like recently. That is the trendy pick for Georgia to get beaten this year, is at Auburn. I was talking to an Auburn fellow last week, and I explained to him exactly why. It's always stupid for some reason when Georgia heads over there. 23 was stupid, and Georgia loses unless Brock Bowers puts on a Superman cape.
That was one of the best games by my favorite Georgia Bulldog player.
How fitting was it that he said Brock Powers at that moment too?
Yeah, sorry.
That was pretty cool.
Brock Bowers, excuse me. Yeah. I mean, dude, it just, I don't know, especially from the tight end position. And like I said, he's I think Raj and I both favorite Georgia Bulldog.
Oh yeah.
But I've just never really seen a game, or at least it's been a while, where they were like, all right, they had him bracketed, and Beck was just like, you know what?
I'm gonna give him the ball. Yeah.
I'm just sticking it there.
I'm still upset he never transferred to Bama, but whatever.
Wow.
I saw him talking about that game in particular just this week, and they asked him about the 2 one-handed catches, and he was like, well, and he was walking you through what happened. He's like, the first one, I didn't see the ball until it was too late. I just threw my hand up and it stuck, and so he made that catch. The second one, he's like, I saw it, but the dude was holding my other hand, so I only had one option, which was to catch it with one hand. So it was interesting to hear him talk about it that way. But Tennessee being where they are is fun for me, just because, again, I like logo games, so that's cool.
Yeah. Mike also has you at 11-1 or 10-2. By the way,
man,
y'all hate that 10-2 though.
Y'all are killing us, killing me. Y'all are like, y'all sound like Brett McMurphy. Y'all like, yeah, don't worry, it's fine.
And I'm sorry, I thought you had one more in there before I get your official. Oh, what's up? Kennepy's in here too. What's up, Kyle?
Shout out to Kyle. Appreciate you for joining us.
Whole time, thank you. All right, so Randy, is it too early in the year to give us your official? What's your record prediction? Where are you coming out at?
Oh, well, I guess I'm going to hate myself with what I'm about to say, because here's the deal. And I'm not going to tell you wins and losses now. I'll save that for my motivated. He's on the channel. I say he. I don't mean to, I'm not sure. But right. Motivated comes on the channel all the time, and he's like, dude, I see it 12-0. Oh, awesome. I'm for it. I am here for it. Okay. So don't ever misunderstand. But here's where I sit right now. I think Georgia is a 9-3 football team heading into this season. And because I believe in the superstructure and what Kirby Smart has built in Athens, the overall talent on the roster, and just maybe a little bit of Gunner in this too, I'm going to say that they finished 10-2. And I hate saying 10-2. Y'all know this. I hate 10-2.
Yeah.
But I do think Georgia's probably a 9-3 team, and that is due to the schedule is the hardest schedule among any of the contenders. Even though a lot of those games are at home, it still is what it is. There's just talked about the youth on the roster. More than 50% of the team is in year 1 or 2 at the university. And I pointed out, and this is the truth for everybody across college football, we do not have the luxury of the depth that we're used to having inside this conference in particular. So if you have injuries, and especially at a position that I pointed out like quarterback, where Georgia would be playing a person who has never taken a snap, right? That's those reasons alone are enough to make me pump the brakes on 12-0. And I'm going to say 9-3. I'm going to say,
guy here.
See, KB, okay, KB, there you go. By the way, I told KB I'll come on and talk to him anytime. Anytime we can make that happen.
Carol's in there too, though.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
See, there you go, Carol. See, that's what I mean. And hey, I can make an argument for 12-0 easily, but at the same time,
it's not harder than OU. So go.
Well, you're in the minority there, is what I would say, because that's not only my opinion. That's an opinion that's shared by independent schedule ranking systems, right? So I use them to sort of back up what it is that I'm saying, and that's, it's fine. None of us know, right? I mean, they got to go play the games.
True.
But just the way it looks, they had them up there.
I'm sorry. Did you want to? I didn't know if you wanted to, because we're already kind of getting at the point where the guy with twins is going to have to dip out on a minute anyway. So we're getting to that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, ultimately, I think Georgia's 9-3 team. I think on the power of Kirby, they get to 10-2 and they make the playoff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I appreciate all the predictions though, everybody. I like that. And Justin actually got to the point that I was gonna make. People that when you predict undefeated seasons, I think they say in a vacuum, if you play this one game, we will beat this one team. And that's will Georgia be favored in all these games? Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the week after they play Alabama, it's a game against Kentucky that in the past, no offense, but a very physical team, right? You get nicked up against Alabama, you get nicked up against Kentucky. Now you're traveling to Auburn, like Jeremy already said, a night game, Auburn.
Yeah.
Revamp, wide receiver core, right? It's not the games that you say, oh, we're favored, we should win. That if that happened, everybody'd be rich.
Exactly.
That is not how it happened.
It's go ahead, Randy.
Go ahead. Well, sorry. I think that that's absolutely correct, and I think that the idea that we play these things on video games, y'all hear me say this all the time, that's just not reality.
Yeah.
Right. I think some people look at it from a roster perspective and they say, well, we've got the better coach, better quarterback, better defensive line, etc., which could be true, but you have to understand that your team is not going to play absolutely flawless every single game. You're going to have some times when your team just plays bad and you don't execute, and it might come at the inopportune time. So you have to factor that in. It's going to happen in one of these games. It's going to happen to us. We see it happen to every team every single year. It's just going to happen. So
unless you've got a player,
KB, by the way,
unless you've got a player that like Brock Bowers dominate the thing, wills it to happen, then you're going to have one of those games. And that's where Georgia, is. That's what Tennessee is for Georgia this year. Yeah. First conference road game with a really young team and a brand new starting quarterback. So don't think that Georgia's going to roll in there and put 45 on them. That's going to be closer, So
I'll give you another point. Yeah.
I just think that's and that's a good point there too. I mean, and you guys know about that effect. I mean, everybody wants to take their shot at Georgia, and when they win, and it's like KB said, listen, I was actually going to do a video, but I haven't gotten to it yet. So apologies, but KB's in here, and I'll just tell you, I was going to do a little video just sort of reacting to that and just say essentially what he said, which is I can appreciate somebody who's going to be realistic about it. And he was very real in what he said about where Georgia is right now. That y'all have heard me say this over and over and over. You have to judge a program over a window of 3 to 5 years. being the best program is not being the best team in any individual year. It is, where are you over this window, right? It's a snapshot. So right now, Georgia is that team. Does that mean that Ohio State didn't win the national title? No. Does it mean that Georgia's going to win it this year? No. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, if you look at everything from recruiting to performance on the field to championships won, all the things, that's how you end up figuring out who's doing it a little bit better than maybe the next guy is, right? Yeah. And KB, he said that. He's like, that's who Georgia is. And I found it even funnier that after I saw his video, Georgia goes out and just blows up the recruiting trail. And Alabama's had some wins this week, but like Georgia, they had 10 consecutive days with a blue chip commitment, 4-star or higher.
And Carol had mentioned that a couple of times, by the way.
Yeah,
like excited. Sorry, Carol, I missed your comment in there, but yes.
Just insane. The 18 commitments in the month of June, and they are far from done with plenty of meat left on the bone. And they're already, according to Rivals, in the number one class, right? So that's just, and it's not to that point about KB specifically. He mentioned it. I can verify that when these kids commit, the thing they say is, we know if you want to go to the league, you go to Georgia. If you want to be developed, you go to Georgia. If you want to be this at this position or that position, you go to Georgia. That's what these guys are saying. And I can remember 3 years ago sitting in this chair, I said, it's coming, and it's here now. And where the thing changed, because at that time it was Saban, and everybody's like, well, Alabama's the standard, and I want to go play for Nick Saban. All true. But then Kirby, finally got the national title. Then they backed it up again, and these recruiting classes keep rolling. And now the tail on the trail is Georgia is the program. And that doesn't mean that Ohio State or Alabama or Oregon or whoever aren't great. They're just not what Georgia is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree. And I think that's why it's circled on there. And that's why I'm never going to pick another undefeated team in the SEC. I just don't. I think you kind of do a disservice to the conference. You can't say we're the best conference and it's a grind and then go, but this one team's going to go through and destroy, especially in this age. Because, what you've mentioned in there, and one of your commenters said, oh, we've got a lot of youth. Yeah, but that's good and bad. It used to be that youth, you knew that guy will play B next year. Now you're like, game 5, that guy might have to be on the field all of a sudden.
Right.
And that's before we wanted him on the field. So
that's exactly right.
I made that point earlier, Herb. I think it was earlier in the year when we were talking about that too. I said when you're recruiting these guys, and again, I've never been in the room when someone's getting recruited, but I think some of the things they want to know nowadays is maybe a little, how much change am I going to get? Another 2, when am I going to play? And I don't know what coaches or recruiters are telling them, but to Herb's point, I mean, you got to get, if you have a 5-star out there, you want to try to get him on the field as soon as possible. We're looking at, Keelan Russell will most likely be in our backup QB. And I even told Herb he's going to play this year. He's most likely not going to start as long as Ty Simpson's healthy, but he will get on the field this year several times throughout the season.
Well, Kirby said this in the spring. He wants these guys, like you said, to become team leaders, get more physically capable. You don't have that time, and none of us have a magic pill to give to these players to make them ready to go. So we're all going to take lumps along the way. It just is. And the thing, though, is also what I mentioned earlier that Kirby said. They're young right now. Think ahead 1 year or 2 years. Yeah. If these dudes, for the most part, stick around and just think about what Georgia could be in a year or two. Like that as a Georgia fan is like a big thumbs up, because you're like, they will be. And I'm talking about like along the lines of scrimmage and the places where you actually win championships. That's what I'm pointing to. So and we will see. There are a lot of people whom I respect who absolutely have the jury out on Kalen DeBoer at this point. That doesn't mean they don't think he's not a fantastic offensive coach with his buddy back with him. And that's not what they're saying. They're just saying, can he not elevate, but keep Alabama at 10 or more wins consistently, or is it going to be a little bit more of this along the way? And then how will Alabama fans deal with that? Right. Like
terribly.
So maybe last year was 9 wins, you know, and then maybe this year it's 10, right? And then next year it's 9. You know what I mean? Is that what it is? And the new landscape of college football, and I talk about this a lot on my new podcast, the exclusive one, right? And I call it how about them, you know, plus. I call it plus. Because that's where I say the stuff that I don't say on YouTube. And I talk about a lot of that stuff about where we're headed, what the players are saying. We're not in those recruiting meetings with the coaches, but the players, all we can go by is what they say. And you know, you're right, Raj. They understand when it comes to Georgia, they have a conversation about NIL, but that's not why you go to Georgia. They're, you know, leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases on the table to come to Athens because they believe in the other stuff. Right. And that's not, that's what they say. So we can believe them or not, but that's what they say.
And that's what it should be about. Unfortunately, for a lot of players, it's not. It's about other reasons. So
for sure. I mean, Georgia lost a player that really hurt me this year in the transfer portal because he had done everything right. He was ready to be the man, and then he ups and leaves, and all because he wanted a bigger statistical output. And he was just looking at scheme, and he's like, how can I do something a little different? And so he made his choice. So we'll see how it goes for him. But that one really hurt, you know, just from a fan's perspective.
All right, Randy, we're kind of reaching that end. Raj, I didn't know if you had a question for him or.
I do. I do. And I apologize in advance. I know we've had Randy on several times, so I don't know if I've asked this one, but I'm going to go ahead and reframe it anyway.
Okay.
So let's just say
it's a new audience, Raj, so it's fine.
Herb and you and I have a sit down, or all three of us have a sit down off air, and we say, hey, Randy, we got a bag. We got $10 million here for you. You just got to do one thing for 1 month straight. 1 month straight. Whenever you post on social media, which will be at least 2 to 3 times a day on all your socials, you have to be wearing Alabama Crimson Tide paraphernalia. You have to say Roll Tide at the end of all your sign-offs have to say Roll Tide. And you cannot participate or watch any type of Georgia sports whatsoever. 1 month straight. And after this 1 month, you'll get your $10 million and you can go back to your rare form and being a Georgia fan.
Okay.
Would you do it?
Yeah. I would do it.
Okay.
I would do it. Okay. I would do it because you didn't say the Florida Gators. So if it'd been the Florida Gators, we would have had a problem. But because you said Alabama, I'm like, I can respect the brand, and I've got 2 littles. Yeah, man, I'll do that.
That's the answer I was looking for, because I know some people would say no, I couldn't do it. But wait till you're put in that position and you just think about it. You're like, I don't know.
And here's the other thing: I think so highly of my community and the people who hang out over there that I think they fully would be like, no, I totally get what you're doing, buddy.
Yes,
you know, they're like, because you didn't put Florida on the table, but you also didn't put Auburn. And you didn't put Georgia Tech on the table. So for Georgia fans, those 3 are the big ones. We might not like Alabama, but that's simply because they've had such a hard time beating Alabama. You know, that's the only issue there. There's no hatred there for Alabama. The hatred is the 3 that I mentioned.
Yeah.
My answer, I'm sitting there thinking about what my wife and family members would say to me if I didn't do it. I'd be like, yeah.
I would think you were in trouble. Like, I'd be showing up at your door. Like, that would be my thing. Either you lost a bet I don't know about.
I'm like, Herb, she kicked me out, man.
And he's been kidnapped, and I got to figure it out. So.
And notice, see, now I'm going to just check you a little bit here. You didn't put a caveat in it, but what if I signed off every time with something like, y'all know I'm a Georgia Bulldog, but hey, Roll Tide. You didn't say I could, did you?
Did you? I didn't say that. You're right. I didn't say that. You're right.
So there you go.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Right. Randy, we'll end you with one more question. You have to do a schedule remake. Okay. We're kicking Georgia Tech off the schedule.
Okay.
You got to end your year with an SEC team. This is your new, which I feel like I know where you're going to end, move it. And you have to start every year with either a Big Ten or ACC school that Georgia, and these will be your two rivals. You have one to start your year, one to end your year. Where are you going?
So the Big Ten or the ACC has to be at the front end, right?
Correct. First game of the year.
And it's not rotating. It's the same team.
It'll be the same team. You'll do a home and home every year, but it'll just continue for the rest of the time until they finally ruin college football, and then there is no more college football.
Okay. So yeah, I would probably put yeah, I don't have to think hard about it. I'd probably put Clemson's right there at the beginning.
Okay.
They're literally, an hour away, just like Georgia Tech is. So that's a good one. And at the end of the year, it has to be an SEC school.
Yes. And I'm wondering if there's two ways I feel like you can approach it. A whole new one as a rival, or move one of your hated ones to the end of the year and make it their last game. So that's what I'm thinking, but I'm leaving that open to interpretation.
Gotcha. Okay. So, just Randy talking here. I would put, I would put LSU as the new finishing flurry.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because there was a half second there where I was like, it could be South Carolina again for the how close and the angst there.
Logistics, right? Yeah.
But see, South Carolina, that is a huge game when they play Georgia for South Carolina. Georgia doesn't view South Carolina that way,
right?
So that kind of took them out. And then even a shorter thought of throwing into one of the new teams, Texas or Oklahoma, and it would have been Oklahoma. But in the end, how could I not look forward to a home and home with the LSU Bengal Tigers? I've been to games in Sanford Stadium against LSU. I would love to go to the Bayou. So yeah, man, give me that one. And generally speaking, that's going to be a pretty good team, so that'd be a good game.
Mm-hmm. Randy, we appreciate you always, man. It is always a fun show. So I've got the wife is texting me that there's nephews on the phone that I got to get to too. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Tell everybody what you got going on, where they can catch you next. And let me also say thank you, especially for shorter notice, jumping into doing this, man. And like I said, we always love the Alabama Georgia crossover. So looking forward to that next for this upcoming year as well. So
okay, and I don't have to choose between you two.
No. You said you were done with it.
I would play the game. The more I thought about it, I was like, well, they enjoy going at each other about the result. So I feel like I'm taking something away from you guys by not answering the question.
We're going to let you off the hook this time.
Okay. I mean, I can present the question. People haven't seen it. We already know what the current record is. Alabama, Georgia, national championship game. You are obligated and you have to be there in your seat. Which Alabama fan are you taking with you to the game, Herb or Raj?
See, and if you are a longtime viewer of the Herb N Rodg podcast, you know the answer to this question because it's going to feel like a warm and fuzzy blanket because I gave you this answer in the chat recently. And that is, I would take Herb. And that's because I had promised that I would. So if I was like, y'all ever ask me that question again, I'm just done. So I'm
okay. Go ahead and we'll call you from the game though, Raj. Phone and delete some numbers here. Randy. I'm just playing. No, I'm just
Enrique, playing. We absolutely will, especially before
the yes, we will, Enrique. We got some more. We got some more in the slate for the month of July, which we'll update you guys with. So
that's exactly it. So
see, we will at some point. I don't know what it's going to look like in the fall, and I'm just being like as honest as I can possibly be. But I expect that there will be some wiggle room. So I definitely will be doing stuff around Alabama. So we have to do that for sure. Somehow or another.
We'll make it work for sure. But anyway, I think I got you off track. Tell everybody what you got going on, where they can catch you next, what we can look forward to.
Yeah, it's in case you don't know or don't know how to say the phrase, the podcast is called the How About That Dawgscast, and we show up every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I usually hang out and chat, and I do overtime most weeks. So the first part is, we're talking about a thing. And then the second part is we're talking about whatever you want to talk about. So if you're free and you want to come see us, that's where you can find us best. And everything starts on YouTube and then disseminates from there. But I'm everywhere else too. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the places, all under the same handle. Because there aren't many people who want to spell out all those letters. I kind of like it. So there you go.
No, we always have a lot of fun watching that. I'm assuming he would take his daughter since it's kind of an open-ended question.
Who would you take to SummerSlam? Okay, so golly. All right, so I'll answer both. So Herb, you are correct. I would want to take my girls because they've turned their attention to the lady wrestlers. I haven't cared about wrestling in 30 years or 20 years. 30. How old am I? When I was in college, when I was 21, 22 in college, I was the last time I was watching wrestling. But my girls saw the ladies wrestle and they got a kick out of that. So now we have a newfound daddy-daughter thing that we do, and we watch. We skip all the men because we don't care, but we watch the girls wrestle, and my girls have a good time just with they're like, I love her outfit. I'm like, I feel you. So I'm like, whatever it is, we're having a good time. So I would love to take them. I would love to take them if they wanted to go. Other than that, I don't know which one of you two cares more about wrestling. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just don't know which one of you is more who's all about it. Because if I were going to go with one of you two, I would want to go with the one that I thought was more kind of all about it. So whoever that is, can y'all answer the question for me?
Yeah.
So whoever's more all about it, that's who I'm taking.
That is a very, very, very fair question. And I saw this advertisement next Sunday, all women show in Atlanta. So
and Mike, if you're in here, answer this for me real quick if you can, because I'm confused. I know Evolution is a pay-per-view. I'm old school. I call them pay-per-views. And we're traveling, so we won't get to see that one, I don't think. But the Saturday show, is that one just on NBC, like big NBC, like everybody watch not Peacock, just NBC, like network? Because the way
they're all on Peacock. Oh, I think
it was all on Peacock. Yeah.
If he answers later, we'll text you the answer then. Mike.
Okay.
Mike answers then we'll text you, Randy. And
I was just confused.
He said it's on NBC and Peacock.
Yeah, it's usually Peacock is what it is.
Well, but Peacock's a subscription. NBC network is not, and that's what I'm asking.
Oh, I got what you're saying. Yeah, because all the rest of them are Peacock. Yeah. So well, Mike will probably answer. Is it Kirby? This is the Herb N Rodg Podcast. That's where we're at right now. So.
There you go, man. Sorry, Curb. That's confusing because I've streamed.
He's probably streaming on yours. No, we like the extra views though. So, and they said, you can watch on either Saturdays, NBC and Peacock. So, got like 3 different. Yeah.
So maybe
Kirby,
because maybe the girls can see that because they were interested in those matchups. Again because of the ladies. So that'll be fun for them if we can actually see the Saturday show.
All right. I'm getting the text. The nephew is ready to get off the phone, so I got to run up there and grab it. Everyone, thank y'all. Yes, Enrique, I just saw yours, and I think that was Kirby. We keep track of all ours. We're trying to on our way to 500. So we appreciate y'all. We will probably see y'all in the chat tomorrow night for Randy shows up. Randy, like I said, thank you. It's always a fun show. We're already looking forward to this fall, man. We appreciate you. Raj, you did okay. As usual.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Randy. We appreciate you.
Just trying to bring you guys some value to your audience, right? Learn about the Georgia people, the Georgia side. So
it's always good. Like you said, you're just kind of like us, man. You love your team, but you're also honest about your team as well. And you say, look, this is what I see. If it's better, great. But that's why I've always appreciated. Do you remember the show that we found you on?
Mayor Raid?
Yes, there you go. Air Raid. We've still a lot from there. So
and just I didn't say this earlier, but anybody who, like I said, I'll go anywhere. So if you're a Bama channel, if you're an Oklahoma channel, whatever it is, you want to talk ball, I'll certainly, if we can make it happen, we'll make it happen. I'm here for it. So reach out however you want to.
Appreciate you, Randy. So thank y'all for watching, especially with this an Alabama channel. We are not a consanguineous channel. We are
Lord, come on.
Not your typical Alabama.
You're really
folks.
reaching now.
Look, man, it was what was given to me. I got to play the hand that was dealt. Appreciate everybody. We will see y'all Saturday night, 7:30. Randy will be here tomorrow, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. Everyone have a great night and roll tide.
Roll tide.